Hi, Neil at Italia Autos here. Welcome back to another video on my channel. I have got this Alfa 159 behind me, a 1.9 diesel. The customer suspects that it has swallowed a swirl flap. He was driving perfectly fine, and then all of a sudden we heard a chattering noise and the vehicle wasn't running well. I haven't personally started it myself because I don't want to create any more damage to the car. So bear with me while I strip the car down and pull the manifold out and see what's wrong with it. Hi guys, thought I'd give you another running commentary on this one because it did seem to go down pretty well with the GTV repaint I did. Doing now is getting the car ready to take the engine mount off. I've put the jack underneath the car, now removing the engine mount so then I can lift the engine up to remove the inner mount to give me access to everything to remove the cam belt. You don't necessarily need to do this to do a cam belt job, but as the cam belt was nearing needed to be changed anyway, we were going to do it all at the same time, but I was sort of preempting a lot more damage than just a cam belt change and a swirl flap delete. The bolts on these mounts are relatively easy to take off, but you do need sort of two jacks if you're doing it on your driveway, one to hold the car in the air with this axle stand and then one underneath the engine to raise and lower it so you can get to all these bolts. Now just removing the side engine cover to give me access to the bottom pulley so I can then rotate the engine by hand. What I did find when I was timing the engine up, the engine wouldn't rotate all the way around, it was getting stuck, so I was pretty confident that there was a major fault with the engine. Fortunately I didn't seem to record me timing the engine up, but as you can see me there putting in the timing lock. So once I found out that the engine wouldn't rotate all the way around, I decided let's take the engine cover off and the injectors out just to make sure that none of the lifters are broken. Luckily with this job all the injectors came out relatively easy. It was no more than 5 minutes for each injector. See me the amount of miles I rack up walking to and from my toolbox all day. Again, the most annoying thing about doing this job is it's the wiring loom. You see where it drapes across to the front of the engine, it just sort of gets in the way of everything you want to do on the intake manifold, but it's quite difficult if you want to remove all the connections to remove it over to the back of the engine. Still removing these injectors. I should have shortened this job down a bit and deleted a little bit of the footage, but as you can see, you know, sometimes they're not plain and simple to remove. They do seize into place. There we go, one's come out now, two's come out. The rest do, you know, they do normally come out quite easily with a bit of wiggling to and forth, a bit of lubricating fluid. I haven't had many where I've had to get my pulling tool on them recently, but what you do find is that they can rust in place, and you can have when you've got like your diesel leaking past the seals, then you get like sort of carbon build up, and that can stop you from pulling the injectors out easily. Now just removing the fuel rail to give me more access to the head to remove it. And we are about to take that off now. What I was finding, there was a little bit of dirt stuck around the screw threads, and it wasn't allowing me to lift the head off easily. But we do get there in the end with a little bit of force with my Now I'm just making sure there's no damaged rockers. There weren't any damaged rockers at all, so I'll start cracking on with getting the manifold off to see what happened to those swirl flaps. And this is lots of leaning over the engine on this one and lying over the engine at some point just to get to the bolts which hold the manifold on. First process is just remove the there's lots of 10mm nuts along the top of the engine holding everything on. Once you've removed those, you can remove a lot of the loom, some of the pipe work. You need to remove the fuel rail separator, and you also need to remove the injection pump. Once you've removed the injection pump behind it, there are 3 threaded bolts. You need to remove one of those from the closest point to the swirl flap manifold, otherwise you're not going to be able to pull the manifold out. Now this car had a lot of work done to it. As you can see, the EGR was relatively new. Several other mechanics had been done. I think he's had a turbo on it. He'd also had a new air conditioning condenser. So it was worth the customer spending some money on this car, as he'd done quite a bit of repair work on it. There we go, there's the manifold off.
We have a swirl flap in that one. We have one in that one. We have one missing in that one. And we have one missing in that one. So we found the reason for the engine knocking. It's swallowed 2 swirl flaps. So now we need to see if we can see the pieces inside the engine and what damage it's caused. Well, it's been a few days now. I've had a word with the customer regarding the damage to the engine. He's decided that he doesn't want me to investigate it any further, as in pull the head off. He just wants me to swap the engine. So that's what I've been busy doing over these last few days. I've removed the customer's engine. I've swapped everything from his engine onto the donor engine, refitted it. I'm almost ready to start it. I was waiting for an oil filter, but that has now arrived. So while I get the rest of the car done, let's have a look at the video of the damage that I found on the engine. So let's have a look at the innards of this engine now. That is piston number 2. Some carbon build up on it, but it's not in bad condition at all. As you can see, there's no impact marks or anything on that. Move on to number 3, and if you can see that all down the bottom end there, and pretty much all the way around, it's where that swirl flap has been jumping up and down inside the piston, causing lots and lots of damage. Let's move on to number 4, if we can turn that round. Again, impact marks all the way around the piston. So this would need some very expensive work to repair. Now on to the head. Number 4 isn't that bad. There's not many impact marks. In fact, there's none as far as I can tell. There's just one around there. So that pretty much saved that cylinder anyway. But on the next one, can you see the difference? The swirl flap is now embedded into the head and caused lots of damage. See if we can get that out. No, that's well and truly stuck in there. So yeah, good choice on sticking another engine in, because this one would have been a very costly repair. Right, just fitted the oil filter now. We're all ready to go. I have topped up all the fluids. I will need to put some more coolant in. I have also cranked the engine for 30 seconds with the injectors disconnected, so we can get the oil to circulate around the engine and the turbo. If you see the engine vibrating an awful lot while I'm trying to start it, that's because there's no subframe on it. I am waiting to make sure all the clutch and everything are okay before I refit the subframe. I have also refurbished that as well. That started pretty well, so let me just check underneath, make sure there's no fluids leaking anywhere. Right, there we go. So far, so good. On to the next part. Get the subframe fitted. I've just remembered I do need to add some gearbox oil as well, so good job I never started driving that. That's an easy one to forget. Top up the coolant, get it all up to temperature, and then a long test drive. There we go, all done. Subframe's fitted, obviously. Engine runs perfectly sweet. Just taking it on a 30-mile test drive, no issues whatsoever. So there we go, we are all done with this one. Sorry, this one started off all quite in depth and then it sort of disappeared into all of a sudden being done. I've been rather busy these last few weeks and I've got work piling up outside, so I needed to get this one done quick, so I couldn't quite film it in the depth that I would have liked to have done. And as I've already started editing this video, it would have been about 30 minutes long, so probably longer than that. So I'll cut it all down into one nice little episode. So thanks for watching. As I'm saying on all my videos now, if you're not subscribed and you've got this far through the video, please think about subscribing so I can get my subscriber rates up, because at the minute it's about 79% of my watchers aren't subscribed, so I do want to get that quite higher now, so we can build the channel even more. Thank you all for watching. Please give it a comment below and hit that like button for me, and I'll see you in the next episode.